LA.B. But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So I got a couple of items for you here today. I'm really excited about this new endeavor that we're embarking upon. And again, it's because of you guys that we're able to do this. And so this is gonna serve as a PSA as well as a video to highlight some players that really need to have a good showing against the Ravens in preseason game number 2 to give themselves a chance to crack the 53-man roster. And I've got a list of players that I've jotted down that I want to discuss with you guys. We'll do that in a second. But first, I want to first thank you guys for all of the support, because without you, none of this exists. And one of the endeavors that I've partaken in over the years is the NFC East Super Friends. And when we first started that, we didn't know what it would turn into. And over time, it has grown and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. I don't think you guys realize just how, much excitement you guys have for that. I didn't really realize it until here recently. It's been a while since we've done a video. It's probably right after the draft or so. And I've been getting bombarded with requests. When are you guys doing another Super Friends? When are you guys doing another roundtable? And it's not just Commanders fans. It's Eagles fans. It's Cowboys fans. It's Giants fans. Everybody wants to know, when are you guys doing another video? And it dawned on me, man, we're sitting on something here. We got a product, and I'm really excited about that. And so with that in mind, because it's kind of taken on a life of its own, we decided to start a YouTube channel featuring the NFC East Super Friends. So we've started our own channel with that content specifically on that channel. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is to go over and sub up that channel, okay? All NFC East Super Friends streams and anything related to NFC East Super Friends is going to be exclusively on this YouTube channel. You can't find it anywhere else. It's not on my channel anymore. It's not on Bad Dogs. It's not on Laws. It's not on LB's. It's only there. So if you want to go back in time and see when we were tripping about this or that, or catch somebody slipping, you're going to have to go to the channel. So what I want you to do is go over. The link is in the description. I'm also going to pin that same link in the comment section, but it's already in the description as we speak right now. Go ahead, check that out. It's in the comment section. I've pinned it to the top. You can click on that link. It'll take you straight to the channel. Sub it up. It'd be great if you watch a little bit of stuff while you're there. We got all the videos, all of them. I didn't realize we had done so many. We go all the way back to 2020. We've been linking up. So it's been a long time, over 10 videos. I didn't realize we had done so many of them. So a lot for you to choose from. A lot of crazy things have been said over the years. And so I find myself laughing every time I go back and watch these videos. It's crazy. So I know you guys enjoy it. I do as well. And I'm looking forward to this. So again, next week, Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern time, the Super Friends are back like cook crack. Join me, your man Law, Bad Dog, and of course, y'all love him, L.B, as we talk about the upcoming 2023 season. Next Wednesday, August 23rd, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Mark your calendars. I'll be promoting the hell out of it so that you know. But the NFC East Super Friends are back, and I'm looking forward to chopping it up with the fellas, predicting the records for the upcoming season, talking all types of trash, and then some. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you go over, do your part to help that channel grow and flourish by going over there and not just subscribing. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss when we do go live, because again, that content can't be found anywhere else on YouTube. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear. So thank you guys so much for your support. And y'all got to represent. Y'all got to show up and show out. Go over, sub up the channel, and then when we go live, y'all got to hold the kid down, because y'all already know what type of time I'm on this year. Y'all see the hat. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what I'm trying to do. And you know I'm going to be talking cold hard cash. I need y'all backing me up, okay? So go over, sub up the channel, and let's get ready to go to war. Put the war paint on. You know what it is. Wednesday, we out for blood. All right? So with that said, let's get to this video and the contents of what I wanted to discuss with you guys. And so, off the strength of the 2 joint practice days with the Ravens, some guys have played well. We have a preseason game under our belt. And now you're getting into the nitty gritty of the offseason, or rather the summer, and training camp. This is the last game of training camp, essentially. That third preseason game, training camp is over. You're focusing on your week 1 opponent. So for all intents and purposes, this is a really big, to me, it's a fork in the road for a lot of these players on the bubble trying to make this squad. You're going into that part of the training camp period in the preseason where it's the fork in the road. Either you can make a sharp turn towards making the roster, or you can make a sharp turn to finding yourself looking for work or potentially ending up on a practice squad. But either way, this is an important and pivotal game in that evaluation process. And so I think there are certain positions on this team that I don't think are really up for grabs. Barring something happening, if guys are healthy, I don't see any way that you can penetrate that particular group. So I didn't include certain players, and you may include them on your list, but for my list, I didn't include them because I just don't think there's a way for them to make the football team. The guys on the list that I have comprised have a legitimate shot of making the roster. Whether they're battling each other or they're battling a player at a different position for one spot remains to be seen. But I got a list of 14 players that I think have a legitimate shot at the back end of the roster. You know, there's about 4 or 5 spots available back end of the roster, and I think these guys are jockeying for those positions as we speak. So let's dive in. I want to start with the defensive side of the football first, and we're going to start in the secondary. So Tariq Castro-Fields is first on this list. He's a guy that I really feel like has had a strong preseason and camp. He's flashed. He flashed in the Browns game. He's flashed in camp. And I like his length. I love his athleticism. Obviously, they did too. That's why they went out and snatched him up last year. And Ron's talked about special teams being one of those deciding factors. When you start talking about back end of the roster, back end of a position group, you're going to have to play special teams. I think Tariq Castro-Fields can do that as well. But I'm more interested in him as an actual corner than I am him as a special teams player. And that may be the reason that he doesn't make the roster, is that while I think he has a chance to be a really solid NFL corner, and you need those, he won't be getting on the field unless something happens. And thus, they probably feel comfortable, adding him to the practice squad, but needing a guy that they feel like is a fiend on special teams. But if he continues to play well and he puts himself in a really good position, all it takes is one injury. All it takes is one situation to happen for him to find himself in the driver's seat making the football team. I think he's really close. He's right there. I think he's going to be on the outside looking in, and I'll tell you why. Because this next guy that I'm going to discuss who needs a really good game, and I thought he played really well, is Christian Holmes, who played really well against Cleveland. Had a little bit of a shoulder issue in that game, but he finished up. He had at least 3 pass breakups where he was hitting guys. We know he's a physical corner, not necessarily the fastest guy in the world, but when he's on special teams, he plays at another level. He was excellent last year. They love him on special teams. That's his inside track, I believe, to making his football team. If I were comprising this roster, I would have Christian Holmes on the team right now as your 5th and final corner. I think they're going to keep 5 corners. They could keep 6, but I think they're going to keep 5, and I think they're going to keep 5 safeties. So it'll be interesting to see how everything is divvied up. But I'm counting Quan Martin as a safety, and I think Christian Holmes right now has the inside track, and he's been playing solid corner too. That doesn't hurt. He looks a lot more comfortable than he was last year at the cornerback position, which makes a ton of sense. He's in his 2nd year, so he should be a lot more comfortable. But his special teams prowess is what's ultimately probably going to land him on this roster. But he needs to continue to play well. He can't take anything for granted and assume that he's on the roster. He needs a strong performance against the Ravens. If he allows Tariq Castro-Fields to outshine him, not only on the field as a defender, but on special teams as well, he could easily find himself on the outside looking in. But the big advantage that he has over Tariq Castro-Fields, Rashad Wildgoose, and all these other is that this group drafted him. And you want validation. You want vindication. You want to be able to say, yeah, we drafted that guy and he's been a key contributor. So he's going to have the edge being a 7th round pick of this group versus a Rashad Wildgoose or a Tariq Castro Fields, who were outsiders that they brought in to help compete. Speaking of Rashad Wildgoose, he's next on the list. He's been a guy that's been overlooked the entire camp, but he's been on a lot of the special teams. And usually a sign of a guy that's, trending towards making the team is how many special teams units is he on? Because again, the more special teams you're playing, the more invaluable you make yourself. The more they feel like they need you. And so he's been on, by all accounts, he's been on a lot of these special teams units. They still like his development. Remember, they threw him in the fire. He got his ass burnt up. However, those burns and scars are still there. He's learned from those. He may be better as a defender. And more importantly, he's a guy that they can count on special teams. So do not discount Rashad Wildgoose. A strong game against the Ravens will catapult him right in that conversation, and I wouldn't be shocked if he found his way onto the roster. So this is a big game for those 3 players at the cornerback position in particular, because I think the safety position is sewn up, and I think the 4 spots ahead of these corners are already locked up. You've got these 3 guys essentially battling for one spot, because we already know it's Emmanuel Forbes, it's Kendall Fuller, it's Benjamin St-Juste, and it's Danny Johnson. They're making the team. Those guys are on the team already. So there's no give there. We know the safety position is already set in stone. Like guys like Terrell Burgess, and they don't have a shot. We got 5 safeties. They're making the team. Nothing to discuss, right? This is where there's a little bit of give. This is where there's a little bit of a crease. 1 roster spot at cornerback, 3 guys. Let's see who steps up and reaches and grabs it. This is a big game in conjunction with next week's game. But this game right here is going to be a huge evaluation tool that they're going to use. Let's go to the edge rusher position, because this has been a big topic of conversation over the last week or so. I think this has gained a ton of steam. So first up on this list is KJ Henry. KJ Henry is a guy that I was excited about out of Clemson. I knew he wasn't the most athletically gifted, but I felt like he would be able to come in here, really acclimate himself quickly, and make this football team. You don't have anybody under contract past this year at defensive end other than a guy that's suspended. And so I felt like there was an opportunity here for KJ Henry after they traded up for him. So it means they really were intrigued by him. Haven't heard anything from him, hasn't really made much noise this camp. Nor the preseason. So I think he's kind of in a tight spot. He needs to make some splash plays. He needs to get his name called, and not for anything negative. He needs to get to the quarterback, force a fumble, something like that to make people start saying KJ Henry and really give himself a shot. Because right now he's on the outside looking in, and I don't know if he can actually get in with the way he's playing right now. This Ravens game is huge for KJ Henry. Right now he's trending towards not making the team and ending up on the practice squad. All right. Now, his counterpart that was selected in the 7th round, Andre Jones Jr., however, is playing extremely well. The staff has taken notice. He got first team reps in the second day of joint practices against the Ravens. And so they've noticed he played really well against Cleveland. I thought he was one of the standout backup players in that Cleveland game in the second half. He's on the radar. So he's put himself in a position to maybe unseat a guy like Casey Toohill. And Casey Toohill isn't on this list because there's nothing that Casey Toohill can or can't do at this point, right? At this point, we know Casey Toohill. They've had him here for 3 years now. They know who he is as a player. All right, they know what he's capable of. This isn't about Casey Toohill. All right, if they're only keeping 5, this has nothing to do with Casey Toohill. It's more about Andre Jones Jr., the upside there, not wanting to lose him, and the fact that he's under contract for the next 4 years. It's more about that than it is, Casey Toohill's not good enough. That's not what it is. They know what they have in Casey Toohill. So whether Casey plays well or he's in obscurity in this game doesn't really matter, because if they're not impressed enough with Andre Jones Jr. and they don't see enough upside from him, then Casey Toohill's on the roster and they're just going to try to slide him onto the practice squad. But if they don't think they can keep him, if they think they expose him and someone's going to snatch him up, then they're much rather expose Casey Toohill, and if they lose him, oh well, he's on the last year of his rookie contract anyway. Whereas you're not trying to lose a guy that you got 4 years of, cheap labor for, that you can continue to develop and see if he can turn into something, which is what they feel like with Andre Jones Jr. Again, needs a strong performance. Don't want to be leapfrogged by a guy like KJ Henry all of a sudden. Continue the momentum that you've built. Continue that in this Ravens game. And I think he can distance himself from everybody else in this competition and really put himself in the driver's seat to make this football team, whether they keep 6, which if it's 6 right now, he's definitely in. If it's 5, then there's a conversation about is it Andre Jones Jr. or is it Casey Toohill? And right now, I'm leaning towards Toohill, but this is how I feel. The upside, not wanting to lose him, knowing that he's under contract for the next 4 years, feeling like this kid could really end up turning out to be a really good football player. I think they're going to try to see if they can get a little bit more out of him before they press that button and give him the nod and keep him here. So this is a big game for Andre Jones Jr. Again, 5 or 6 is the question at defensive end. If it's 6, he's in. If it's 5, there is doubt. I still think he's going to get in regardless. But this is a big game for him. Can't take his foot off the gas pedal at this point. Linebacker, does anybody really know what the hell's going on at linebacker? Seriously, does anybody really know? Because I don't. I'm not going to lie to you. I know that we're keeping 3 guys for sure. David Mayo, Jamin Davis, and Cody Barton are all on the team. Those 3 are on the team for sure. Khalil Hudson, 4, right? So other than that, I don't really know. Is Milo Eifler going to make the team again? They really like him. He's been here the last 3 years. Is he going to be on the team? What about Scooter Harris, right? What about DeJohn Harris? Is he going to be on the team? Forced a really nice fumble last week. They really like him as a special teams player. Is he going to be on the team? I don't really know. Are they going to keep 4? Are they going to keep 5? They're definitely not keeping 6. So the question is 4 or 5? I don't really know. But if you're Milo Eifler, if you're DeJohn Harris, you really can't be certain of what the hell is going on. You just need to put your best foot forward on special teams and on defense and let the chips fall where they may. Neither of them can take their foot off the gas pedal if they're looking to make the football team. I think one of the 2 is making the team. I don't think both of them are making the team. Remember, Khalil didn't make it last year, which allowed both of them to make the team last year. Khalil is making it this year, so one of them is not. Let's see who steps up and takes that last linebacker spot. If there's a last linebacker spot, they could go 4. I think they're going to go with 5. Now let's go over to the offensive side of the football. And Alex Arma, I've been touting Alex Arma all camp long. I've been telling you guys I think he's going to make the team. And I still believe that to be the case. But he needs another strong performance against the Ravens, and he needs to continue to show his versatility, continue to play on all special teams, continue to play the fullback position. Another sign that they really, really want him to be on this roster will be how early does he get in the game? You're not sticking guys in the game early on that you're going to cut. If Alex Arma if he was going to be cut, you're not going to have him out there playing a ton of snaps with the first team offense because you don't want to have them getting used to having this feature, with the offense, with the fullback and things. You don't want to have that continue to be something that they think they're going to have, and you're getting reps with it only to have it snatched away. So I think him playing early in the game with the first team offense like he did against the Cleveland Browns is another sign that I think they're leaning towards keeping him on the roster. The versatility with all the injuries at the tight end position, his versatility to be able to do that. The running back position, I think there's just so much that he brings to the table. EB coming from a program where a fullback was essential. EB himself being a running back, loving having a fullback in front of him. I think all of those factors, you bake that in. I think Alex Arma is going to be on this team, but he needs to have another performance that makes sure he reminds them, hey, y'all need me. Y'all need me. So, Aaron Montero is a guy that is really intriguing to me because last week he was with that second unit against the Browns and he played well. And we always assume he's not making the team, and he's not right now. But with Sadiq Charles' situation, and if you're one injury away on the interior of this offensive line from Aaron Montero, he's the first guy to miss the roster on the offensive line, if you ask me. He's the first guy. I mean, if you want to put Braden Daniels ahead of him because he's a 4th-round pick, go right ahead, knock yourself out. But if you're talking about guys that can actually contribute to the team this year, Aaron Montero is the first guy that's going to be on the outside. If this were the NCAA tournament and you're talking about the first, 4 out, they'd be the first of the first 4 out. Aaron Montero would be the first of those guys out on the outside looking in, because I feel like he's one injury away from being on this football team. But he needs another strong performance against the Ravens to keep the momentum, because I think he's actually played well. And the problem is just a numbers game. He's not better than the guys that are ahead of him, and he doesn't have a higher upside, and there's no, value attached and associated with him. They didn't spend a draft pick on him. He's a guy just fighting, trying to cut his teeth in the league. And so that's, a strike against him, unfortunately, where you got a bunch of guys that they've spent either money on or draft capital on. And so those guys are going to get every opportunity to succeed. But Montero, I thought, has done some good things. And if he plays well in this Ravens game, he's going to make it tough on the staff. And he's also going to put himself right in position should Sadiq Charles start the season off, say, on the PUP list. Aaron Montero makes the football team. But he needs to play well in this game to make sure that if something like that happens, he'll be the beneficiary of it. Curtis Hodges. Tight end has been tumultuous for this team the last 2 years in camp. Last year, they were dropping like flies. He was one of the guys that got hurt last year. Logan Thomas was banged up last year. And, Cole Turner was banged up. And Amani Rodgers came out of nowhere to make the team because we didn't have enough bodies. He got all the reps. This year, Logan Thomas has been out of camp for the last, week or so. And they're going to continue to take it slow with him, as we've seen. You've seen some injuries to other guys, including, Curtis Hodges himself, who got banged up, but he didn't really miss that much time. But this was a guy that they were so high on, and with Amani Rodgers going down, it was just assumed that he'd step up and he'd make plays. Well, he hasn't. He's been so quiet. We haven't heard anything from him. I don't even know if he was targeted. He was the one that I think gave up the interception against the Browns. Right now, he's not showing that he wants to be on this football team. I'm not getting that indication that, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes to find a way onto this roster. This is his last chance, I believe. If he doesn't get it done in this game, show something and stand up and say, hey, I can help. He's definitely going to not only be cut, but I don't know if he ends up on the practice squad or not. My assumption is, they want to keep bodies that are familiar with the offense, that have been here, and he'll be one of those guys that they keep around. But I just haven't seen anything. And it's time for him to start making some flash plays so that, people can say, hey, yeah, okay, that's why he's been around the last 2 years. It's time to start seeing him do something that gives himself some value around here. Haven't seen that. This is a big game for Curtis Hodges. Now we get to the receiver position, and we know how important this little battle is because a number of things are going to be determined here. Ron has already spoke about whomever makes the team needs to have speed and have some qualities that allow them to excel on special teams. For the purposes of this conversation, 5 receivers are already on the team, including Byron Pringle, who probably needs to have another strong game here. But even if he doesn't have a strong game, he has a modest game, he has 1 catch for 3 yards or no catches, he's making the football team. He's a core special teamer. He's already proven his worth. He knows EB's system. I've already put him on the roster. So for this conversation, he's not even involved. We're talking about 1 roster spot and 4 receivers battling for 1 spot, that 6th and final receiver spot. And so we start with Kazmir Allen. I think he's going to get the most opportunities to claim this spot. I haven't loved him as a receiver yet because he hasn't made plays as a receiver, which is why he's had such a quiet camp. Now, as a return man, you don't really get to show your prowess in camp. They're not punting the ball, and you're not getting a ton of reps there. You're just fielding punts, so nobody's getting to showcase their skills. The game is essential for a guy that's trying to make the team as a return specialist. He's going to have to do something that gets everyone's attention, like he did somewhat last week. Even though it ended up being called back due to a penalty, it got people talking. People left that game saying, hey, we got to watch this Kaz Allen guy. Now you've got to follow up with an encore that's even bigger than the last performance against Cleveland. If they throw you a wide receiver screen, you got to find a way to get 12 or 15 yards, make a guy miss, and so everybody's saying, hey, this guy's an athlete. We got to find a way to get him on the field, not only as a special teams player, but this guy can be a difference maker. If Curtis Samuel or somebody has an unforeseen situation come up, we got another guy that's shifty out in space that we can get it to that can still make a difference. So you want to show value. If you're Kaz Allen, you're going to have to do it on special teams because you're not a gunner. You're not going down there and making a ton of tackles. You got to show it on kickoffs, on punt returns, and if they put you in the game on offense and they throw you the ball or they give you a jet sweep, you got to make the most out of that as well. So Kaz Allen's going to have an opportunity, but it's not guaranteed to him. Marcus Kemp, he made an excellent catch last week. Ron talked about the size of Marcus Kemp. He talked about his speed. He's a guy that can run as well. And so Marcus Kemp is in a really good spot because he's a core special teamer. I think he adds value as a receiver. There's a lot that he brings to the table. He knows EB's system, so that's a leg up for him as well. There's a lot pointing in the right direction for Marcus Kemp. But again, it's a numbers game, and he could easily be on the outside looking in. A strong performance from him in this game, not just as a receiver, but on special teams, makes a tackle or two and shows up there. You could see, Nate Kaiser, our special teams coach, standing up when it comes cut time saying, hey, I need Marcus Kemp. I need number 19. This is a big game for him. I thought he did some good things at receiver last game. Now let's see if he can combine that performance, bring that back, and add some special teams value to the mix as well. Dax Milne, our old buddy Dax. Here's the positives with Dak. This group drafted him, so they don't want to give up on him if they don't have to. Number two, if Kaz Allen doesn't make the team, Dax Milne more likely than not will because they still need somebody to field punts. You can say what you want about Dax Milne, but at least he catches the football. That's important. He makes smart decisions. He catches it when he's supposed to. He lets it hit and maybe trickle into the end zone when he's supposed to. He stepped out of bounds last week. That's not good. Not very good. Okay. Got to know where you are at all times on the football field. But with that said, they like the security blanket that he provides them with of knowing if we put him back there at a bare minimum, the offense is going to take the field. Okay. That's the thing that he brings to the table right now. Not going to be dynamic as a return man. If you're looking for more, he's not the man for the job. But if you're looking for someone to make sure that the offense gets a chance to take the field, Dax Milne is your man. And, oh, by the way, he's a really good receiver. In case you didn't know, had a nice catch last week on the sidelines. He can get open. He can win. And that's going to help him as well. Don't sleep on Dax Milne. I'll just say this. If Kaz Allen steps up, the position is his. If he doesn't, I think the default is going to be Dax Milne. You heard it here first. If you didn't already know, now you know. And then lastly, Mitchell Tinsley. I don't think there's a way he can make the team. Ron talked about speed. Ron talked about special teams. Those two things Mitchell Tinsley does not have. What he is, however, is a dynamic receiver. And I think that is something that they value and they want him to stick around because they see a future with him. But the problem is if you overexpose him, if I'm Washington, he's getting limited snaps. I'm not showing the rest of the league what Mitchell Tinsley is all about. I don't want him catching 4 balls for 62 yards in this game and then when he's playing a whole hell of a lot next week against Cincinnati, he catches 8 balls for 92 yards. Somebody's going to snatch his ass up. If I'm Washington, he's not getting into the game until like the late stages of the fourth when we're trying to run the ball and get the hell out of Dodge against Baltimore. And then you may have to play him a ton and he may have to get a bunch of catches against Cincinnati because, you're not going to be playing a lot of the guys that are going to be, making the football team at that point. So you're going to expose him then. But if I'm Washington, I want to see more Mitchell Tinsley. And the more you put him out on the field, the more you expose him to the rest of the league, the more likely it is you don't get him onto your practice squad. That said, if he gets the opportunity, if they let him play, if they turn him loose, just go out there and ball, which is what he's been doing pretty much all camp long. I like him as a receiver. And if this were 2 years ago, he'd definitely be making this team. But we're so far removed from where we were 2 years ago at the receiver position. It's not even funny. And, 2 years ago, Mitchell Tinsley would have locked up a roster spot 2 weeks ago because we had nothing. But it's a different animal now. It's a whole new world at the receiver position. And unfortunately, a talented guy like Mitchell Tinsley is probably going to be on the outside looking in. So that's my list of 14 players that need to have a strong game against the Ravens in preseason game number 2 in order to boost their value. It's going to be a great game to watch, honestly, to see the starters get some work in, to see these young players jockey for, position as far as trying to make this football team. A lot's on the line in this game because, again, after this game, your attention and focus really goes towards week 1. The coaching staff is really going to be focusing on Arizona as an opponent, starting a game plan for them. It's less attention to what you're doing in practice every day, even though they're going to be paying attention. It's more focus on how can we take advantage of Arizona. So this is really not your last opportunity, but it's a big one. One of the few big ones you have left. Got to take advantage of it. So tell me what you think. Leave it down in the comment section. Did I leave somebody out? Do you think there's another player or two that has a chance to crack this roster that I didn't name? And if so, how do you think they make the team? Who's going to be pulled off for them to get on? Let me know down in the comment section. Love to hear what you have to say. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. LouieT.